Welcome back to Critically Incorrect. We are on our 10th episode this week, double digits. Pretty insane how fast that has come. As you have noticed already, Dan is back once again this week. I figured that, we had a really good episode with him last week, and we figured we'd invite him in yet again. So he's back. I guess all of you, if you want to introduce yourselves real quick.
Hey, what's up?
It's me, as usual.
Back again, somehow.
Yeah, so this week has been, probably in the middle. It's not as crazy as last week, but it's also not too quiet. As you know, we had that Resi showcase just yesterday. 2 days ago, if you're watching this, the day it comes out. Besides that, I guess we'll go over what we've all been playing this last week. So I guess we'll start with Dan. What have you been playing for the past week?
No FIFA, again. That's a record. Mainly God of War. I'm pretty much now near the end of that. Because I think last week I said I was only about, 2 hours from the end. I think I've literally just got to play it for about another half an hour and I was done. The only reason I stopped playing it like this week was just because I just kept on falling asleep. Not because the game's bad, I was just genuinely shattered. So yeah, I'm near beating God of War finally. Played Heavy Rain on PS5 as well. Sorry, PS4. Sorry, I'm dreaming that I've got the PS5. That's why I keep on saying it. But yeah, I went through that because I was just going through a load of games that I've had saved from PS Plus over the years and just not touched. So I played that for like the first time in God knows how long. Played that. Just started up Shadow of Tomb Raider because I've not played that before as well. I had that on disc as well, so started that as well. And then I brought Detroit Become Human as well finally. So hopefully.
Actually, never mind. I was gonna say
I was about to say because I missed the boat to play it because obviously me and Justin don't have a linked account anymore, so I missed my boat to play Detroit, so I did have to fork out the money for it. So yeah. But yeah, hopefully I should be probably going to make a start on that tonight. But yeah, that's pretty much just what I've been playing this week.
Did you play Heavy Rain for the first time this week?
No, I played it for the first time in, I think, nearly a decade. Because I first played it in 2011 because it was one of the first games I got on PS3.
God, that
and
makes me
then
feel old.
I remember my dad played it like a few years after. Just because I was like, I want to play a game. And I thought, well, if it's a game full of quick time events, it'll be fine. So I let him play that for a bit, and then, I've not played it since then. So, yeah, it was pretty eye-opening as to how mediocre it is today, but it's...
Jason!
I still think the story is pretty good, but yeah, there's definitely elements of that game.
The story is good, but I was cracking up. Cracked up so many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice to go back to it, but yeah, I just mainly did it just because it was there, and also it's piss easy to get trophies on, so I thought, why not?
True. How about you, Justin?
For me, pretty chill week. Been playing a bit more at Sackboy. I'm done the 4th world now, so I got the final world to go. Slowly but surely, I'm gonna get to the end of that. And yeah, I started Gears of War 5, just because I bought it during the Steam sale, for PC, obviously. It was like really cheap during that sale, so I've been playing that. Still really early in the game. I've only played like the first 2 hours or so. I'm enjoying it though. It's fun. I couldn't connect my controller to it for some reason. I don't know. Charlie, you played it, right? You played it. I think you played it.
Yeah, PC, I played a bit, but I was using keyboard and mouse. So
right. Okay. Yeah. Because I wanted to connect my controller, but it wasn't working. So I've just been using keyboard and mouse.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty fun so far. I'm enjoying it. Gonna keep going through the week, I guess. But yeah, other than that, pretty chill. Just some casual NHL as well for me.
Oh,
I
Even
thought you
though he got that 200-hour platinum, I still see him
Dude,
playing it every night.
mate. See, this is terrible. You guys take the mick out of me for FIFA. There's Justin happily playing NHL.
Justin's the new casual.
At least I've not touched FIFA for like 3 weeks. That's like an accomplishment for me.
I don't even think Josh has been playing Destiny lately, so I think the casual title does actually go to Justin right now.
It might be me right now. Hey,
How the roles have reversed.
Dude, I've gotten hooked onto Ultimate Team. I gotta I don't know. I don't know. I find it like fun competing against other people. Just I don't know. Seeing who's better.
Disappointed.
But yeah.
Right on.
That's pretty much it for me.
So I guess I'll get into what I've been playing. Mainly, to be honest, it was waiting for Hitman. Like, that was the big thing I was looking forward to this week. So it was more just some of the same multiplayer stuff. I did get back into playing a bit more Dead Space. So I did some of that on stream over on Twitch. Hoping to do more of it soon. But yeah, so it was mainly that, and then waiting for Hitman, which I've been playing a bit of. And then more League of Legends here and there. A new champion came out yesterday, so been playing him quite a bit. But yeah, that's about it. Really, a pretty basic and quiet week, to be honest. So
Right on. Yeah, we'll definitely get into our Hitman 3 impressions a bit later on the show. One of the most notable games, obviously, at the start of this year. Probably the only game, at least in January, that's notable. What I've been playing, I think I said last episode that I started the Pathless. I finished that maybe like 2 days later. I still have other stuff that I wanted to do in that world because there's a portion of the game that's, mandatory to do, but there's definitely some side stuff to do if you haven't finished it all. So kind of been loosely going back to that. I also started Bugsnax because I wanted to finish that game. Not finish that game, start the game and just beat it pretty quickly because it isn't that long from what I've heard. Just mainly looking to cross things off my list, and I just chose to start up. I think I'm like an hour into that game, and it's pretty good. I'm kind of impressed by how much it uses the DualSense. It's a pretty cool experience. The story's wild and interesting, so looking forward to playing more of that. Besides that, I think I started Mirror's Edge Catalyst on stream yesterday. And then, like Charlie, I've been playing a bit of Hitman 3 and then the Maiden demo that just happened this week, but I mean, that was like only like 15 minutes. So yeah, besides that, that's generally what I've been playing. Besides, the occasional maybe Fortnite with like a friend or something like that. So yeah, that's been my week. Yeah, Fortnite, haha. Anyways, I guess I'll quickly once again remind you to ask questions again in the comment section down below. If you have any topics or any questions you want us answered in the next week's episode, make sure to leave them in the comment section down below or join our Discord. With that being said, I guess we'll go over this week's releases. Yeah, as I said, mainly it's been Hitman 3. That's like been the big one. Capcom also shadow dropped the Maiden demo, which is exclusive for the time being on the PS5. I believe the Maiden demo will remain exclusive, but there's going to be some sort of other demo that's going to be coming to other platforms sometime, they said, in spring. As well as Everspace 2. This is an early access game that's currently only on PC. Definitely go check that out if that interests you. Besides that, we'll get into the gaming news this week, which has been, generally, I'd say average. Mainly was, carried by Resident Evil's, showcase yesterday. But besides that, we do have some interesting news. Most notably right now, Sony's secret studio that, we previously had been, wondering what they've been working on. I believe I've, kind of assumed it was going to be Uncharted because it sounded like it was like, I believe they said a third-person action-adventure game based on existing IP. Yeah, pretty much the studio, someone's LinkedIn profile that works actually at that studio mentioned what they do there, and they said that their studio is kind of built upon expanding existing franchises across kind of Sony's, worldwide studios. So yeah, this is kind of just more, breadcrumbs to eventually what this new studio will turn out to be. It's really interesting because this studio still doesn't have a name or hasn't really been formally, officially kind of declared by Sony. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on this. Do you have any updated thoughts based on, what we've found out this week? Because this studio has been rumored for at least 2 years now, and we still haven't heard it.
Feels like forever that we've known about this studio, and it's like we still know really not a lot about it other than just a lot of vague rumors. So I don't really know. I'm still kind of miffed and up in the air as to like what they could be working on. I mean, I'm not kind of as in the ring with like news about the studio probably as much as you guys, but to me, I've generally got no grasp at all as like what they could be working on. Like, there's been rumors saying, it could have been like, I know at one point I don't know if they were true, but it might have been an Uncharted game that they were working on. But the fact that it's a pre-existing franchise, it's got me curious, but I don't have a clue at all as to like what they could be working on.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, I don't really know why Sony wouldn't announce the studio by now. Like, it's kind of weird, but at the same time, I feel like it's almost because it is very early days, and probably for that first year they were hiring people and just gathering ideas rather than actually starting a new project. So I don't think we'll get an official announcement or title until they announce a game. That will probably be how they announce all this stuff. just because Sony have got so many studios as well, the last thing they need to do is announce a new studio. They're not in the same position that Xbox was 2 years ago when they started acquiring people and put together the initiative, where they announced that studio really early on, which again I think was kind of to a downside for them because it led to people just constantly wanting to know what they were working on for years when, it's still very early days with Perfect Dark, I'm sure. So if they'd announced the studio by now, people would be waiting even more than they already are for whatever they're working on. Whereas because they haven't announced it, it keeps it kind of on the down low for the majority of people. So
That's true. Justin, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's interesting because the first time we heard about this was I think it was 2018, right? So it's been almost 3 years now. These rumors have been going on, every once in a while, something new, kind of surfaces, and this once again is just more, adding on to that. Now I guess this is kind of clarification that they're working on an existing franchise, which is good to see. I don't know, if it's an existing Sony franchise, right, and it's an action adventure game, they're really I don't know, there's not that many properties then, right? It really narrows it down if it's existing franchise. I don't know. I'm just wondering what it could possibly be. Right?
I mean, based on that description, it does sound like Uncharted, and if they're
I know. I mean, we've been saying that for a long time.
My main assumption is that this studio's role is to expand on franchises that the creators don't exactly want to, do more installments, because games nowadays take years. So if they have other ideas and other ventures they want to pursue, this allows them to still retain the sales that Uncharted could generate for Sony, but not at the expense of limiting Naughty Dog creatively.
Right, which makes sense because we've Naughty Dog's made 4 Uncharted games plus the Lost Legacy. We can see them move on to something else, which is totally what I want to see, because they've been making Uncharted for 10 years. And then now 2 Last of Us games, so I definitely want to see something new from them on the PS5, right? And but we know Uncharted is such a huge system seller for Sony, right? Such a big IP. They definitely wouldn't want to waste that. So I think the new studio, if they end up making Uncharted, I don't know, it's kind of a double feeling for me, right? Obviously, because I love Uncharted, and if they did announce a new game, I'd be super excited, right? But at the same time, I don't know if I trust another studio to make an Uncharted game.
I think for me, it's comfort food, right? It's obviously something that we care about, and we know we're gonna enjoy. Yeah. Story-wise, I'm not exactly needing another installment. I feel completely closed off with Uncharted right now, where I feel where they left it is in such a good place that they don't really need to ever touch it again. I could see that they would want to, just because it is such a fun franchise, and loads of people love Uncharted obviously because it's such an action thriller. It's kind of like one of those series like Mission Impossible where you keep getting installment after installment because it's just fun to watch or play in this case, time and time again. Yeah, I mean, I'm not one of the people that will exactly hate on this, obviously, because I'm gonna obviously wait for it to be announced and see how it looks and what kind of direction they're taking it in. I don't exactly need another installment of Uncharted, but at the same time, I'm not gonna knock it before I see it. So I'm kind of in the middle at the moment, and yeah. Mm-hmm. I think we're all in agreement as well that we want to see Naughty Dog do a new IP, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. For sure.
I know there's some people that want part 3 from Last of Us, but I definitely want to see that.
They're not going to do a new IP. They're going to do a new IP, and then they're going to close it off with Last of Us Part 3. Bro, yeah, that's what they're going to do.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly.
Yeah. Or they'll do factions multiplayer first, right? And then I don't even know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think it's gonna go factions to their new IP to part 3. I think we're gonna get a part 3, but they definitely need to do a new IP because they've done a new IP every single generation except for the PS4 generation. Obviously, it's just games are taking longer to create nowadays, so they can't make 3 big games like they used to on the PS4. Or actually 4 big games on the PS3. Yeah. You can't do that nowadays because games are becoming more expensive to make and you need more manpower. It's teams are getting into the hundreds to even thousands in the case of Red Dead. It's just crazy. So yeah, it's like if I think about, Naughty Dog's going to take the next, 4 to 5 years to work on another game. Hopefully not that long, but most likely it will be. I want to see what they could do with the new IP. I was kind of like, we were talking about this in the Discord as well, like whatever they do next, they have like a lot, like they have heavy expectations because like every single franchise they've made so far is really iconic if you think about it. Like obviously Crash is super iconic, so is Jak and Daxter, so is Uncharted, so is Last of Us. Like they haven't really made a bad franchise, so they have like definitely big expectations for whatever they do next. I think they'll obviously hit it just because no matter what Naughty Dog tends to do, even though Part 2 was very divisive for, a decent amount of people, I hate the assumption that a lot of people didn't like Part 2 because, it definitely seems like a vocal minority more than anything, but they still strongly had a direction for that game, so yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing whatever they do next, because whatever they do, they tend to not obviously just make a safe product. at least it's going to be something that's hopefully worth telling. So yeah, we'll see about that. Anyways, I guess speaking on the studio as a whole and just Sony, the Uncharted movie got delayed once again. And the funny part is this is the first delay I believe that's happened since it actually finished. So this movie will no doubt come out because they did finish filming, right? But obviously due to the times we're in, the vaccines aren't currently being rolled out too fast. By the time this movie was slated to come out, which is June, most likely the sales wouldn't have been, that strong. Obviously, this year is still kind of rough in terms of cinema, at least physically, because, a lot of people are still, staying at home. Yeah, the movie's been delayed till February 2022. I think this is a lot safer of a date if you're looking at, making profit for people that are going to be buying the movie and seeing it physically with friends, because I feel like we'll be in a lot better place, hopefully, next time, in February this year or next year. Still, once again, it's funny to laugh that this movie yet again got delayed because Twitter's just ripping it apart, even though this one actually does make sense given COVID. But yeah, once again, Uncharted movie's been delayed. So what did you guys think about this? Did you have any thoughts or anything you want to hit on?
Didn't surprise me at all. The thing is that I think we expected it. Like most films that are going to release like from now until I'd say probably like you're looking more towards September of this year, they're all going to get pushed back just because even with all this stuff about like vaccines coming out and obviously, trying to get the world back to a normal place, it's still going to hit films and major franchises hard. So they're not going to release films in this time. Like maybe if it's towards the last 3 months of the year, maybe. But given that it's release day, I don't think it. I think it was the right move, and it definitely didn't surprise me. Like I kind of expected it because at the end of the day, it is Sony. They are going to want to make a profit on turning this into a franchise. So. It's completely expected. So hopefully by the time it comes out, it will do well. We'll probably end up with a sequel that will probably take 20 years to make, and Tom Holland will probably be in his 40s. But yeah, didn't surprise me.
Hey man, when Tom Holland does a sequel for the movie, he'll always be as old as Nolan North is now. So we'll get a proper Uncharted movie with Drake's Fortune. Yeah.
Right.
Anything?
Yeah, it's not surprising. I was just gonna say, like, just adding off of what Dan said, it's not surprising at all. At the end of the day, Sony wants to make money with this movie. Uncharted is a big name for gaming, obviously, and if you're making a movie out of that, you want to make a good amount of money. Cinemas aren't open, or like, they're not doing too well right now, I guess, right? So yeah, pushing it back makes sense. And yeah, once again, like, I think. Especially because it's Tom Holland, he's a pretty, popular actor too. That'll attract a lot of people as well. So, makes sense to delay it.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't even come out then. Because,
oh, Mr. Negative.
No, because the thing is, right, even if this time next year, everything's sorted, so many people are still not gonna go to the cinema. Just because people are scared of that kind of thing, and rightfully so. People want to be careful, so I wouldn't be surprised if even when films do come out the end of the year, beginning of next year, they don't do too well, and that may end up with them going, oh, actually, maybe we should delay it a little bit more, just by a few months, just to make sure.
They're like, yeah, Uncharted's a summer title, let's just delay it to the summer.
I will say February does feel weird for such a movie like that.
Yeah.
So I totally could see them delaying it eventually until summer next year.
Yeah, and the thing, it's a kind of different situation, but even when they released Tenet, over here, there were a lot more places that were open, and you could freely go around. It felt kind of normal. And even then, when I went to see Tenet on like opening weekend, nobody was there. So
Exact same.
like, because everyone was just didn't want to go out to risk seeing a film. Like, it's just not worth it. So
like if you can't get people to see a film that like such a big name as Christopher Nolan directing, there was no chance at all that this film like was going to release the state it is.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So I mean, we'll see. Like, I hope it comes out then, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets another delay.
Just don't do a No Time to Die and just keep on getting delayed to the point where it's a joke. I don't want it like that.
I think there's also like an article that came out, I don't know, within the last few weeks. It was like Jim Ryan talking about they had like a few shows and a few movies from PlayStation Studios, you know, in development. Obviously, we know the Last of Us HBO show is a thing that's happening. Yeah, it just seems like PlayStation's definitely taking an initiative to expand their IPs to other mediums. Just sucks that the film industry obviously right now is hit so hard because it is one of those mediums where generally it's consumed with, you know, the presence of other people around you in cinemas. With gaming, obviously you could just be in your personal house, just, you know, enjoying it by yourself. Not to say you can't do that with movies. Obviously you can stream them or, you know, generally just watch, you know, Blu-rays in your house, but there is that big presence of the box office obviously that is lost due to the pandemic right now. So sad to see, but just kind of is what it is right now in the world that we live in. So smart move by Sony if that movie wants to succeed. And yeah, just honestly the reality of the situation. Anyways, I guess third story talking about Naughty Dog and Uncharted or whatever their IPs are. Yeah, there was a concept art that was released, I want to say a few weeks ago to possibly a few months ago. This concept art was looking like really fantasy-like, similar to like what Game of Thrones and Assassin's Creed Valhalla is kind of goes for Vikings, or not, I guess Game of Thrones in this case, but just that fantasy aspect, right? Essentially, this concept art was, you know, posted online, and the description was something like, you know, inspired by a new game, you know what it is, very cryptic, and of course the internet took that as, you know, possibly a new game. Even I originally saw that and thought that they were talking about a new game. But yeah, ultimately, obviously, given the project's current state, they wouldn't be allowed to post something like this. Eventually, it was revealed that this concept artist was actually talking about Assassin's Creed Valhalla and was just inspired by that to create this artwork piece. Nonetheless, yeah, they said that, did they comment on the game as a whole that Naughty Dog's making? They just said that it doesn't pertain to what they're currently working on, right? They didn't rule out fantasy, did they?
They didn't rule anything out. They were just like, yeah, this isn't to do with us. Like, this is his own personal art, which makes sense. Like, it's very rare that stuff gets posted so early on and it ends up actually being to do with the game. That being said, I'd love to see them tackle something like this, especially because I feel like with Last of Us, they did, especially the second one, they did such a great job of like the melee hand-to-hand combat. Like, it's so fluid and like satisfying. So if they were to expand that into like a fantasy game with like swords and shields and stuff, I think that could be really cool.
We were kind of having a discussion on Discord about this. I guess I would ask all of you, would you rather see Naughty Dog take on fantasy or sci-fi? Because I know those are kind of been the two genres. Mainly sci-fi has been thrown around, obviously because like things like Savage Starlight found in Last of Us, and just, you know, Naughty Dog's interest in space during like the early decade of this year, or this decade, you know, with SpaceX launches and all that. Kind of like an early, you know, rumor before even Uncharted 4 was announced, really. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? Would you rather see them take on fantasy or sci-fi if they were going to go in one of those directions?
I think if you asked me before, like, I think I remember back then, like, I remember those when those rumors like first came out. Like, I remember when Neil Druckmann was talking about how they were like playing around with a fantasy or sci-fi game, like before they took on Uncharted 4, I think. Like back then, I would have definitely wanted sci-fi because, you know, I think that's up more, kind of more up my alley, like, you know, the space or sci-fi, whatever. Because I don't know, I was never really a big fantasy type of guy, you know. I've never really been invested into those kinds of worlds. But yeah, I don't know if it's like a sci-fi thing with like all kinds of aliens and stuff, and like I don't know, like when I think about sci-fi, I just think about like Mass Effect, and I don't really want Naughty Dog to do something like that. I don't know why. But yeah, I think like just with the games they've been making recently, I think fantasy would be quite cool just because, you know, it's completely different from, you know, anything they've worked on, like Uncharted, Last of Us, like completely different. If it's fantasy, you know, as Charlie said, we might see like a lot of hand-to-hand combat with like swords and stuff, which I think is great because People tend to sleep on like gameplay for Naughty Dog games for some reason. I don't know why. I think gameplay in Naughty Dog games have been great for, like all their games, especially like Last of Us 2. Like, once again, as Charlie said, the all the combat and everything was just so fluid. And yeah, I think, if they kind of head into a different direction with the gameplay they've been doing in the past, it could be quite cool. Because we've seen like other studios, they take on different projects, with different kinds of gameplay. Like Guerrilla was always making first person shooters, right? And then they moved on to Horizon, which was great. So I would love to see Naughty Dog do something different, So
That's true. I mean, look
Fantasy
at
would be
Respawn. They were always making like these FPSs, and then they just made
Yeah.
Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, it's
yeah,
true.
exactly.
What about you, Dan or Charlie? Any of you want to?
Yeah,
I know, I guess
think-
Charlie, yeah.
Yeah, so like, I'd like to see them do fantasy more than sci-fi, mainly because I feel like there's more room for fantasy than there is science fiction. Like, I feel like you think science fiction, you automatically just go, oh, space, and there's so many games that have tackled that. I don't really want that, especially because a lot of the time science fiction, you could just put like Star Wars or Star Trek in it and it works, and there's so many of those kind of things out there now. I don't want more of that. And honestly, whenever I think like Naughty Dog fantasy, I kept thinking back to like the leaked Sucker Punch demo for that Prophecy game that came out like a few months, like last year sometime. Yeah, it's like last July, which was like a cool looking fantasy open world style game, which is what they were working on before Ghost of Tsushima, and like that looked really cool, and I'd love to see them do something in that kind of style. With their level of detail and fluidity with animations and combat and stuff. Like, I think that could be really cool. So, yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I think with Naughty Dog, I think fantasy would probably suit them. I think just because, like you guys said, with the combat, they've already got something that they can work off in terms of obviously making that like a lot more enriching and putting a lot more into that. And then I think from there, making a fantasy game would probably be a lot easier. Sci-fi, I think, I don't know, it depends on how grounded they want to keep the sci-fi elements. If they kept it like more grounded, say like something, I don't know, like Blade Runner, then I think it could probably work. But like I say, if they tried to do like sci-fi like Star Wars or Star Trek, I don't know particularly, it would, I don't know how they'd be able to make something like that and make it stand out. So yeah, I'm probably heading more towards fantasy, but with me, for what Naughty Dog have done, they've made some absolutely brilliant games. So regardless of what they do or like what genre it is they take on, I'll be interested in it, whatever it is. But if I had to pick one, it would probably be like fantasy. I think that's probably, there's more that they can get out of that.
I think Charlie made a good point. Like, a lot of people assume like Star Trek and Star Wars whenever sci-fi is mentioned, but I mean, you can take sci-fi in different directions. Like, Half-Life is technically sci-fi, right? But it's not like in the traditional sense that you'd expect sci-fi to take the form that it does. So, yeah, I mean, sci-fi could take any sort of direction. As Dan kind of also noted, it's like, that's one of the main things I was also considering is when you go in that sci-fi direction, it's also hard to have like a grounded story, kind of. I think Half-Life threads the needle pretty well with a grounded story, as well as introducing like cool elements with like manipulating time and locations with like teleportation and all that. Really cool elements like that. Yeah, that's true. I definitely think that whatever they do next, I feel like it's going to be a linear game because they love to make those, and it seems like their motivation for making these games is to move the player, right? Like, that's been the main constant throughout at least the PS3 to PS4 generation, is to have great characters and a linear like story. They always experiment with like bigger locations, like we saw with the Western Ghats and Lost Legacy and the Seattle downtown area, but traditionally they like their linear games. So that's why I kind of thought about genre, right? Because I feel like we know what they're gonna do next. Like, we know they're gonna make another linear game most likely. Just have previously, I don't see them making like an RPG, but it's all about that next setting that they go to that interests me the most, because that's a big unknown, so only time will tell. Do you guys think that they'll announce their next project this year? Because they traditionally, Naughty Dog loves to announce their games pretty early in advance. Like, we were even talking about this last fall, right, before the Game Awards. They have always pretty much announced their next project within the same year that they just released their last one. So I feel like obviously it's different. Like they're out constantly being a different studio, and even with things like factions still to come out, like I still think it's possible that like by the end of this year we see a tease for what they work on next, because Naughty Dog likes to have that out there for far in advance. They love to announce their games, so we'll see. But what do you guys think about that? Do you think that's possible we see that announcement this year?
I think it's next
possible. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
year. Yeah.
I would
I'll let
say
you go,
it's
Justin.
possible. No, I was gonna say like it's possible. But at the same time, like I know, cause like they're still working on factions, right? And like that still has to get announced. That still has to come out.
Do you think the whole studio is working on that though?
No,
Like, I don't
no,
think
no,
Neil
no.
Druckmann
Because
and all
no,
that would
I
be
don't think
working
that.
on
Yeah,
multiplayer,
yeah,
yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that, and especially like I don't know if this has like if this means anything, but whenever they do like job listings or whatever, they always have like these things for like especially for like the like programmers and like or like the scripters or whatever. They always have like temporary assignments. So whenever I see that, I keep thinking like that's for to wrap up like factions, and then everything else is like for the next game they're working on. I don't know. That's just what comes to mind when I see that. But yeah, I think like if we get factions at like sometime this year, hopefully earlier, right? But it's possible that we might get a small tease at the end of the year. Like I don't think it would be like anything crazy. Kind of like that Uncharted 4, like the initial tease, like the when it wasn't even called Uncharted 4. We might see something like that maybe. But yeah, like as Charlie said, I think it could be next year too, just because with everything going on, and they still have factions. It could very well like lead into next year, especially because it is a new IP.
Yeah.
They might need a bit more time with that. So I'm not expecting it to like I think like if when this game does eventually come out, like a new IP, it won't be like for a few years, like 2023, 2024, the earliest, right? So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I mean that'd be pretty cool seeing a new IP already, because I feel like Last of Us 2, like even though it was half a year ago, it hasn't felt that long, right? Like I don't know, it's still like
that's true.
fresh in my mind, really. So.
They generally start pre-production on their next project, decently well in advance before finishing their last one. Like
That's true.
I'm not sure how much, I'd guess like at least they had like maybe the last few months of development, obviously on Last of Us Part 2, focused on, prototyping and brainstorming for their next project. So I no doubt believe that they'll probably at least maybe like a year into, brainstorming at least what this next world will be. Yeah, I guess, Dan, what about you? What did you think?
I don't know. I mean, I've probably think if it's like they've got to obviously announce factions and get that over and done with first.
Which has to be
see them
soon.
announcing that beforehand, but yeah, which got to be sooner rather than later. But in terms of announcing it, I just don't know, because with how weird these past 2 years have been, and obviously with the whole fiasco about when they showed off The Last of Us Part 2, it was like in 2016, and then we only just got the game last year, and then obviously there was this whole thing about the game just constantly getting delayed. So part of me thinks whether they've learned their lesson from that, but at the same time, I don't really know. If I had to make a prediction, I would probably say more likely for it to be next year, just because I think, given all of what's happened at the world at the moment with coronavirus and like social distancing and all that, and the whole thing with factions as well, I don't know. I just don't have a feeling that it's going to get announced this year. I think it's just probably a bit too soon for that. I probably think it's going to happen next year.
I think COVID's probably like the main one, because I feel like it's a lot harder to be on the same page over like a direction for the next project and brainstorming when you're not all in the same room writing things down. I feel like it's I don't know, like I feel like it's easier to obviously to like say, oh, like create this level, right, and do this on your own or do something like that, but like in terms of like the creativity of being together in like an office, like that's obviously something you lose during these times. So yeah, that's interesting. I also think there's like an element with Sony already having so much announced that they don't need to announce it right now. Like they even have that new studio working on whatever they're doing, which we assume is another Uncharted game, and then more after that, I'm sure. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Like.
Anyways, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. I'll quickly say like I think it's next year mainly because I don't think they've worked on the project for that long. Like, unlike their previous projects, I would doubt that this was in pre-production before Part 2 came out. especially because of a lot of the crunch and stuff that was going on. I just don't think they had people working on anything other than.
Well, I was saying
2.
like creativity, like Neil Druckmann obviously writes down what he's doing.
People
right?
probably had ideas, but like I don't think it was much more than that. Like if you look back to when Last of Us was revealed, that was like December 2011, so just after Uncharted 3. But they had been working on that for a while because it was a separate, smaller team. Same with Uncharted 4. They had Amy and a couple other people writing up stuff before that got announced. And then obviously Part 2, when they announced that super early, but all that stuff they showed had been recorded like a year or two later.
Mm-hmm.
So that stuff was just, they hadn't even really started work on Part 2 at that point. It was just, hey, we're going to do stuff on it. Here's some things to hold you over. So because it's a new IP, I don't think we see it soon. Like, I'd say probably like summer next year, if an E3 type thing even exists by then. Like,
My
I
main
feel
thing
like
is also like I don't
that's-
even think I want to see it because I feel like Naughty Dog tends to announce their games too early.
Yeah.
Like there's always their speculation like phases of when you've seen like the initial like announcement trailer and when they show something next is always like pretty long. I don't know, like I feel like they always announce their games a bit too early. It's nice to know what they're working on, but at the same time you kind of lose that trade-off, right? That you are frustrated because they showed it too early. Like Part 2, I definitely felt that. That was announced, fall of 2016 and didn't come out until 2020. It's crazy. But yeah. Any other thoughts that you guys wanted to add before we move on?
I think we're all good.
That's everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, to switch gears, we're going to talk about Xbox. So this is actually a news story that broke literally, I want to say, 2 hours ago, like just before we started recording this. Essentially what this comes down to is Xbox is trying to incentivize current people that are subscribed to Xbox Live to move over to Game Pass. Mainly that's what it is. So essentially what's going down is that Xbox is doubling the price for Xbox Live from $60 to $120 per year. Yeah, Charlie, I think you know a bit more about this because you were talking about this in the comment section about how it's not exactly how it's being represented online in terms of like titles. So I guess I'll let you introduce this topic.
Yeah, because like The Verge's article is kind of worded very weird, so like it's not the best one to read. But basically, how it seems to be is that they'd already discontinued yearly subscriptions for Gold, to try and get people to buy into Game Pass Ultimate, which gives you Gold and Game Pass and streaming and that kind of thing. So with this price increase, it's basically becoming almost the same price as Game Pass Ultimate. So for like an entire year of just Gold, it's $120 because you have to buy it 6 months. Whereas Game Pass Ultimate, I believe, is about $150 because it's £140 over here. So you're only spending like $40 more, yet you get all these free games and all the new games that are exclusive to the console, as well as, you know, streaming on your phone or tablet, that kind of thing. So it's a really good value for money if you're looking at the increase in price, but it's also really scummy if you don't want that stuff and just want online, because you're having to pay double for what you already pay unless you're subscribed. They've said that if you're already subscribed, the price increase doesn't matter, you get it for the same price. But if you cancel that and try to resub, you're gonna end up spending double the amount, which is crazy, especially when, you know, PS Plus is still $60 for a year.
I mean, it's just insane that we all have to pay for online in general, right? Like, it's crazy that, like, essentially what it comes down to is if you want just online, like, you got to pay such a high amount just to have access to the internet on the box, which is crazy. Yeah. Especially
as well, like, we were talking just before we started recording, but, like, if you want to play free-to-play games on Xbox, you have to have Gold. Whereas on PlayStation, you don't need PS Plus. You can play those for free.
Even on Nintendo, you don't need it.
Yeah, so yeah, even on Nintendo for the free-to-play games. But if you want to play, say, Warzone on Xbox, you're now going to have to spend $120 a year just to play that, which is a free-to-play game that you can play for free without online anywhere else. So, yeah.
It's definitely a big decision factor when deciding what platform to choose for, like, the casual audience, because there's a lot of people I know that personally pick up, like, 2 to 3 games a year. And if you're paying, like, essentially what the cost would be for 2 games. Yeah, you do get Xbox Game Pass, which gives you access to so many games, but a lot of people, at least that I deal with, like in retail, right? Because obviously I work in retail. I see a lot of people that just traditionally buy Call of Duty, right? They want to play with their friends. Maybe they'll pick up 2K as well, and that's what they essentially play every year, right? So it's like if you're on Xbox, you're essentially paying $120 for, the ability to play with your friends online, as well as the cost of those 2 games. So it's like you're essentially coming down to like $250 or so, $240 to just pay, for 2 games essentially with your friends, which is wild. But yeah, it's like 2 years of that, and you have a new console like the same price. It's wild. Justin, Dan, you have any thoughts on this at all?
Scummy.
Yeah.
Just makes me happy I don't own an Xbox.
Yeah, I was even saying like I have a PC, right? So all their exclusives are now coming to PC via Game Pass, as well as just to Windows 10 and often Steam now as well. So I was like, there's not really a need for me to pick up an Xbox, but I've entertained the idea. Ultimately, I've always come to the conclusion that I can just get all these games on my PC. But now, like, knowing that if I want to play online, I'd have to commit to Game Pass as well for their ultimate $15 a month. Because right now I just use the base PC plan. It's just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a good value for me personally, since I do have a PC. Yeah, it's just very case in point. As Charlie said, like the value, if you look at it from what you gain, you do gain a lot, right? But at the same time, for the people that just want online, the numbers do strike hard that you're paying so much just to pay for, a free-to-play multiplayer game. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. As Dan said, scummy, but, at the same time, from a business standpoint, it is pretty smart, right? Because, once again, like, I do have friends that are in that boat where they only buy like 2 games a year. I have friends on Xbox who only play Warzone or and buy the new Call of Duty that comes out. So, they're in that boat where now they're basically, the better case is to subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate and get all that included, right? But yeah, I mean, I don't have an Xbox. Don't think I'd ever get one anytime in the future, right? Because I have my PC as well. It's not the best, but it's doable. I can play. If there's anything on Xbox that I do want to play, I can play it on PC. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts.
I feel like a lot of the bad outcomes of this move would just be simply moved, or removed in general, as if they allowed free-to-play games to be played free, without needing gold. I feel like a lot of the issues come down to seeing things like, oh, if you want to play Fortnite or Warzone, you got to pay $120 a year. But, if they just simply made it so that these free-to-play multiplayer games would be free, that would be fine. I don't know why they aren't free, because Xbox generally is looked at as like a, pretty progressive company that like listens to the demands and needs of like, their audience, right, essentially. But yet this move still feels outdated and old and just annoying. I guess what it comes down to is they see the numbers, right? Like they see how many people are subscribing to this and giving them $60 a year, and they're like, oh, if we don't make Fortnite and Warzone on that list, we'll probably lose a lot of subs, which they most likely will, right? But yeah, ultimately I feel like it makes sense, as Justin said, you want to have kind of these things under one roof, right? I feel like a lot of people are confused when they see Game Pass as well as they see Xbox Live. Like even with people that I deal with at work, like a lot of people end up buying the wrong thing. Same thing with Plus and now with the PlayStation side. I can see what issue they're trying to solve, but at the same time, it's just wasn't the best move in my opinion. Or at least they still got some issues to deal with. So yeah. Anyone have any closing thoughts or remarks before we move on?
No, I think I'm all good.
No, good.
Anyways, our last news story before we talk about all the Resident Evil goodness we got this week comes in the form of PLAYDEAD. I guess, at least for me personally, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do next. And we've had these kind of like vague teasers, right, in terms of what they're working on. But due to just recent job listings that they had on their website, we actually know more concretely what they're working on. First of all, there's some more screenshots over here of what they're working on. I'll probably put them on the video right now if you're watching on YouTube. Essentially, the description reads that it's going to be a third-person sci-fi game set in a remote corner of the universe. The main takeaway here is the third-person aspect, because obviously Limbo and Inside, which is what the studio is known for, 2 very similar games, I guess. Inside is kind of evolved, an evolution of what Limbo was, but pretty similar in terms of the side-scroller aspect. This is going to be a third-person game, right? So ultimately it seems like they're pushing into a new genre where it's not going to be as limiting as Limbo and Inside once was. The screenshots they put, doesn't exactly give you too much information, right? Mainly gives you information on the setting and kind of the, I guess, vibe that they're trying to go for. But obviously, we won't really know how this game plays until we see it in action and how you actually move the character, right? So, yeah, nonetheless, I really hope this game comes out sometime soon just because I've been waiting since Inside for their next project. I feel like they're, I want to say underrated, but I definitely feel like, when people are looking at, the future of what they're looking forward to, a lot of times PLAYDEAD isn't mentioned. I've been mentioning them for years in terms of when they're going to announce their next project officially and showcase more off. I've been wrong every single time because I feel like I've predicted this game to come out in 2020 and ultimately it hasn't even been announced yet. So I guess, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Are you looking forward to this? What did you think about, it kind of evolving from a side-scroller to a third-person game?
I mean, I'm just excited to see, once again, I just like it. I just like to see when developers, try and take on new projects that they're not necessarily known for. So once again, this is kind of out of their area of expertise. They once again Limbo and Inside, both side scrollers, as you said. This is a third person game, so quite different from the past few projects that they've made. And yeah, I'm interested. Interested to see more.
Have you guys all played Inside?
Yeah, I've played both. Yeah, Limbo and Inside. I'm excited to see what they do with it. I'm not dying for this game because we probably won't see it for another 2 years if they're on the same track record as they were with Limbo and Inside. There was a 6-year gap between the two. And if this is, it's third person, so it's a lot different to their past two games. So I would imagine there's going to be an even bigger gap potentially. Interestingly, this technically isn't new news. They did actually say it would be a third person sci-fi game 2018. But
oh, really?
I was looking online and yes, it was
I know the screenshots were old, at least a few of them. I feel like some of them were new. The job listing posted a few more of the screenshots.
Yeah, so basically, PLAYDEAD's founder did an interview with a Danish site a few years ago, and he was basically saying that there's a lot of limitations in 2D, and so that the game would be a lot more open, and that it would become a third-person game with much larger areas. So it's already been a thing, but I guess it never really got picked up on that much. So it's kind of all these job listings have gone up and people have gone, oh wait, actually it is third person. So
it's weird because I remember tweeting about their next project. I believe it was a year ago, right? And then someone replied to me saying they actually did showcase some screenshots
they've shown
on their
off
website
screenshots before.
They've shown off, I think, 4, but they definitely, I think, added a few more recently, at least, because some of these ones I haven't at least seen yet when I checked last time. It's also worth noting that Epic Games is going to be publishing this, and they are using the Unreal Engine. I'm not sure what Inside and Limbo were on. I want to say they weren't using Unreal, but I could be wrong.
I don't think they were.
Yeah, I don't think they were using Unreal. And then as well as they're currently, PLAYDEAD themselves are currently up to 50 employees strong at the moment, which is definitely bigger than Inside. I think they were definitely a lot smaller than that for those projects. I just looking forward to seeing this. Hopefully we'll see some gameplay soon, because I definitely, even though the game might be off a year or two, right? I definitely think hopefully we'll be due for some gameplay soon. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to that game and hope it's good, Anyone have any closing thoughts before we move on?
No, I'm excited for it. I mean, I really liked Inside. I never got the chance to play Limbo, but I was always wanted to, which is why I got into Inside. I thought it was really good game. I really enjoyed it. I'm not usually a fan of side scrollers, but I really enjoyed that one. So, the fact they're doing something different, third person open world, I'm definitely curious for it. But like we said, I don't think it's going to be coming out for another 2 years at least. Just like you say, given the track record, and then you put the COVID into it as well. So
That's
I
true.
probably don't think it'll come out till 2023. So I'm excited for it, but I'm not going to be over the moon yet, because we haven't properly seen anything concrete of the game yet, and it's still going to be a while off anyway.
Yeah. I definitely want to replay Inside. I've been wanting to replay it for the last, I want to say, month. So wouldn't be surprised if come next week I've already replayed it. So we'll see about that. Anyways, I guess our last bit of news comes in the form of Resident Evil. We obviously waited to record this episode because of this showcase, and yeah, we got quite a bit of news. I guess our main takeaways, at least mine. I always said that, like, keep your expectations low, right? Because we don't know what this was gonna exactly hold because they haven't done anything like this, and yeah, lo and behold, it wasn't exactly anything too revealing. It mainly focused on just Village and then as well as some online components. The other updates mainly came into weird times with like the Division 2. I guess we'll just list off everything. So first of all, Resident Evil Village did get announced for last gen consoles. Previously, it was just announced for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, as well as PC. They announced that they did end up making a PS4 and Xbox One version, so that's also coming day and date with, the current gen versions. They got a release date for May 7th, which is a lot sooner than I think we all thought. We knew that this game was essentially most likely going to be first half, but I think all our predictions were like June or later. So May is definitely going to be one busy month, especially if Ratchet turns out to be May as well. So yeah, looking forward to that. Main thing came in terms of the demo. So me and Charlie have actually played it, and we'll talk about our thoughts after this. But yeah, there's currently a 15-20 minute demo that kind of mainly introduces you to the world that this game is going to take place in. The gameplay won't be that, similar to what you find. You're not even playing, as Ethan in the demo, but it introduces you into this world, which, if you have a PS5, definitely go check it out. Alongside this, there was that little multiplayer sliver that they've been kind of but kind of recruiting for a playtest that's going to be next week. They officially announced this as essentially what Resistance was to Resident Evil 3 is going to be what this is for Village, right? So this is going to be kind of like a TDM Resident Evil multiplayer game that incorporates a lot of the Resident Evil games. Like you have 7 in there, you have 2, you have 3. You can play as like all these different characters that are iconic throughout the franchise in different locations. It's called Reverse, and that's going to be day and date with Village as well. So that was announced there as well. As well as they also showed off a animated Netflix film that they already previously announced, but just gave an update on that, which is, I believe, due for summer of 2021. So that was it for the main showcase. There was a leak that came out earlier today that talks about Resi 4 Remake. I find this notable because, I personally thought we'd see something, maybe, another game in the series that would be, teased by them here that, could be the Resi 4 VR game or the remake. I thought the remake might have been a bit too soon because, I always assumed that was going to be 2023 or 2022. But it didn't make, any showcase, obviously, yesterday. And for actually VGC reported on this, Video Game Chronicles reported that essentially that this game is kind of having development issues. So the studio that worked on the Resident Evil 3 remake were originally, taking on this project, and Capcom have been kind of, having conflicting views with them. Essentially, them in the main studio that works on a lot of the Resident Evil games were having conflicting views. Resident Evil 3, the developer there, they wanted to keep it more one-to-one because of the backlash they received for the Resident Evil 3 remake. Obviously, that cut a lot of content out, and it also changed a bit, of, what that original game was. So, the studio obviously wanted to make the next project, Resi 4 Remake, a bit more one-to-one, but Capcom and the main studio that works on Resident Evil wanted to still be a bit different, right? So ultimately, they're taking a bit, of a smaller role in this project in favor of this, the main group that's going to be working on this. I forgot their name. I believe it's the people that are working on 8, but I could be wrong. Essentially, yeah, just Resi 4 Remake's going to be a bit a ways as they're kind of rebooting the project yet again. So a lot of Resident Evil news this week. I guess, what are your guys' thoughts on all this? Strictly on Village, I guess. And then if you want to talk about Reverse or anything else, have at it.
Okay, sure. Okay, first the release date. Earlier than what we all expected. I remember. I think you guys said June and I said July. So hey, I mean that's cool. May 7th. That's like a whole month or at least a month earlier than what we all expected. And yeah, like May is basically when my summer starts. So I'll be chilling at home. And that should be a cool game to play. I do have to finish 7 though, because I started it and I didn't get around to finishing it. And which is good now because like now I think it was part of the PS Plus collection, right? So
yep.
I think because I started it on PC and never finished it, so I think I'll just download it on my PS5 and play it there because I prefer playing on PS5. The fact that Village is coming to PS4 and Xbox One, I don't know. Like, I'm not disappointed or anything. I'm not too disappointed, right? Like, I know some people obviously, like, for those who do have next gen, I guess if you want to call it next gen consoles, I guess some people are disappointed that they think the game might be held back since it has to, work on PS4 and Xbox One. I don't really care too much about that. I think, the game will be fine on next gen consoles anyways. I didn't get to play the demo yet. I do want to try that this week, so I'll probably get around to doing that this weekend. In terms of the multiplayer, the reverse thing they announced, it looked kind of weird. I don't really care too much for that, I don't know. I didn't even play the multiplayer that came with
Resistance, yeah.
Yeah, Resistance, yeah. I don't really care too much about that. The animated Netflix, was it show or film? I don't even remember.
It's a film.
It's a film, yeah.
Yeah,
I think we've always
okay.
been like, all three of us have been thinking it's a show, right? But it's actually a film.
Okay, so yeah, I'll check that out because I have Netflix, right? So why not check it out? In terms of Resident Evil 4, I wasn't expecting it to show up at the show. It would have been cool if it did, but yeah, at the same time, I'm totally cool that it didn't. But yeah, Resident Evil 4 is, one of my favorite games of all time, if I hadn't mentioned that before. But so yeah, I think like if they are having development issues, just take the time necessary. I just want that remake to be great because yeah, as I said, Resident Evil 4, one of my favorite games of all time.
So good.
Yeah, I didn't even play that until like a few years ago, but even though it's like a 15-year-old game or whatever, when I played it, like, I didn't even care. Like it held up fine. I enjoyed it. And yeah, like I just loved like everything about that game. So yeah, super looking forward to the remake. And yeah, hope it's good.
Yeah, I mean, the May 7th date is pretty cool. We were saying we thought it would be June, July. I guess it means that they were probably aiming for that April release, like was leaked. So it's just, like a week out. It's also perfect timing because that's like a week after I finish all my university work. So I will be all done with that. I'll probably be back at actual work, but, I'll at least have Village to look forward to. I'm a little bit disappointed that it is on PS4 and stuff, but also...
Hey, don't diss my... Don't diss me. Stop.
Like, I get why, and I think the reason they held off announcing it was because they probably weren't sure how many consoles would be in circulation. Like, I feel like if there was a lot more PS5s and Series X's out there, they probably would have kept it for next gen. But they probably realized, hey, if we just do it on next gen, we're really limiting our player base because there's just not going to be that many people with these new consoles by the time we launch the game. So let's try and get it working on previous gen. That way we still get our sales up and we can launch, Reverse on the past gen, which that is not. No, it's bad. It looks bad. Like there's no other way of putting it. Like I don't know what Capcom's like. They just seem addicted to trying to do Resident Evil multiplayer, and it's never worked, and I don't think it will ever work. Like, it's just not...
Did they not get the memo from Resistance flopping super hard?
Yeah, same, like, Umbrella Corps, they've tried it with Resi 5 and 6 had multiplayer modes that sucked. Like, they just haven't been able to do multiplayer in Resident Evil. To the point where people have looked at the screenshots and the trailer they showed and realized that to make sure multiplayer characters will fit in the maps, they have made everyone smaller. So if you look at screenshots of the characters, they've literally shrunk down their character models so they're like as tall as a table, just so that they can like run in a corridor without having to make a new map. They can just take the maps out of Resi 2 Remake and probably Resi 3 Remake and stuff, which I think is absolutely insane. Like, it just shows that they've probably rushed this game so hard. I don't get what they're doing. I really don't. Because like they could probably make a good multiplayer game if they really put effort in, but it seems like they just can't be bothered, and they're trying to quickly grab pre-orders, and no doubt they'll fill this with microtransactions or something. Like, I'll give it a try. I got a code for the beta today, So I've installed that, and I'll give it a go next week. It's on my birthday, so I hope it does not ruin my birthday by playing this game. But we'll see. I'm still interested in playing it, but man, I don't think it's gonna be good. The animated film is interesting. I haven't actually seen any of the past animated films. I know they're meant to be pretty good. Some of the like time films and stuff, so I should probably watch those. But I'll probably give this a watch. As for the RE4 remake, it kind of doesn't surprise me that it is that far off. It's so dear to so many people. I personally have never played it, so I need to.
You need to.
Yeah, I've tried playing it a few times on PS4, and then I downloaded it on PS5, and I couldn't get into it. But I do need to give it a go, because
there's definitely there's a big curve of getting used to the combat, right? Because obviously you can't move and aim. You gotta like commit, and it feels really weird at first, but once like you play for I'd say like an hour or so, like you'll start to appreciate it a bit.
I do want to play it. Like I think I got probably like an hour in. Like I wasn't very far, but I do want to play it because I really like the newer Resident Evils. I'm not a big fan of the original three. I could never get into the fixed camera perspective, but I do want to give Resident Evil 4 here because I know so many people that love that game. I do think it's interesting that it was the people who did Resi 3 that wanted to try and make it more one-to-one.
Yeah.
You'd think it would be more Capcom would intervene and go, hey, we want it to be basically the same game remade.
That's what I thought, because like they saw Resi 3 and they were just like, yo, fuck off, don't do that again.
But I guess they're basically saying, hey, we're going to take full reins. Like, you can, give us some support in programming and that kind of thing, but we're going to do most of the project because we did Resi 2 right, and we did Resident Evil 7 right, and Resi 8 might be good, so we're gonna make this game, which is fair enough. I do think it's interesting that like the VR game didn't get shown off at all, especially because it seems very likely that all this Capcom leak stuff was very real, which I mean we'd imagined it was, but obviously that was the rumored date for that was April alongside Resi Village. So whether this is still early this year, I have no idea. It did say Oculus in the like leak, so maybe Oculus will announce it at some point. I imagine it's going to be like a Quest exclusive, because I'm guessing it's just a straight port of Resi 4, but the camera is first person. Like
I think they're waiting on Oculus, because if you think about the Ubisoft games, right, you feel like those would be more announced by now, because they've been seemingly in development for a decent amount of time. I don't know, it might just be something that, Oculus is holding on to these games to announce on their own event or something.
Yeah, we'll see, because like Oculus have only really ever done their big event in like September with Oculus Connect, which is now Facebook Connect. But so I don't know where they would announce it if it's still coming out early in the year, because Oculus don't tend to make many announcements outside of Oculus Connect. So we'll see what's going on with that game. I'm looking forward to see what they do with it, as long as it's not a Quest exclusive, because I don't own a Quest. But I imagine that's where it will go, purely because Oculus are moving into the more Quest landscape than they are PC VR. But yeah, a lot of interesting stuff that happened at the showcase.
Dan, did you give your piece yet?
No, I actually watched it today because I didn't get a chance to watch the live stream as it aired last night because unfortunately the football took priority and stupid me forgot about it. So I managed to watch it really early this morning. But from what I saw of it, like what they showed of Village looks really good. I've always been excited for that game. I'm happy that of course it's on PS4 for idiots like me that can't get a PS5. But I won't lie, as in like it is. I guess it is also a bit disappointing because obviously I know for like you guys, obviously you want it on your console just so it, you're optimizing, as much as the power you can get on the next gen systems. So yeah, that does worry me a little bit, but again, you can understand why from a money perspective. But yeah, from what they showed of it, looked as cool as it did from when we saw it last year. So I'm really excited for that. The release date, like I say, I think of May, because I'd seen the video where you guys did your predictions and you were all saying like you thought it was going to be June, July. I was thinking, stupid me being a retard, saying August. So the fact that it's May, better than I thought. So, at least it's something to look forward to, at the end of uni, if I get a PS5 by then. The demo I can't really speak about because, again, I don't own a PS5. Just to further hit that home. The multiplayer, I honestly thought it was a joke when I first saw it. I mean, I just looked at the name and I thought, this can't be serious, can it? So, yeah, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like my kind of thing. I've never enjoyed the multiplayer for any of the Resi games, so looking at this, it's just, no, thank you. I mean, maybe if I got invited to the beta, which would never happen, maybe I'd give it a chance, but it doesn't look like my kind of thing, so pass on that. The animated film, I've never seen any of the animated films, but I know people have told me they're dead good. I might watch it if I'm bored on Netflix one of these days, we'll see. And then the Resident Evil 4 leak, again, I'm happy that they're taking their time with it because, as with Justin, I love Resident Evil 4. It is one of my favourite games of all time, just like Justin said. I really enjoy that game, so I am more than happy for them to take all the time they need to make that as good as it can be, because obviously it's got a lot of fans, a lot of people hold it really close to their heart, so obviously they're going to want to do that game justice, and especially with how disappointed I was with Resident Evil 3's remake, I definitely hope that they just learn the lessons from the mistakes they made, and they just make this game as good as it can be. But yeah, we'll just have to wait till 2023 if that's how long it's going to be, but yeah, I was pretty impressed with what we saw. I wasn't expecting Resi 4 to pop up, but with this supposed info coming in 2 years' time, it was a good showcase overall. Enjoyed it. It's definitely kept up my excitement for Village, and I can't wait to play it in May.
Right on. I guess speaking of Resident Evil, me and Charlie will give our thoughts and impressions on the Maiden demo real quick, and then after that, Hitman 3. I guess I'll give my thoughts real quick here. So the Maiden demos, I feel like I said this earlier, right? It sells you more on this world of Resident Evil Village, that it will be essentially you play as the name suggests, a Maiden. You play as one of the women, right? There's like some clues at what's going on in the world with ladies that are being denied to be, I presume, one of the sisters, and being accepted. There's only 2 or 3 names. You find a note of ladies that were accepted in a list of 8 or so that have been denied. It's pretty interesting. Gameplay wise, as I said, it's mainly puzzle oriented. They even said in the showcase you can't fight or anything, so you kind of just walk around. Pretty creepy. Game runs really smooth. That's one of my biggest takeaways as well. The camera's super smooth. It's easily 60 FPS and looks really good. I don't even know what else to say. It's just the world's really cool. Bit creepy, but nothing too bad. Just sells you on this environment. I can't wait for this game, honestly. So, Charlie, what'd you think about the demo?
Yeah, I thought it was a nice little, it literally is called a visual demo, and that's exactly what it is. It's showing you, hey, this is what the game's going to look like. This is kind of the themes and feel we're going for. And I really liked it. I will say, I was kind of mentioning this before, but the standout thing for me was the audio. I used the PlayStation Pulse headset, which I haven't used that much. I don't think it's anything amazing, but this game has kind of sold me on 3D audio. It's really weird, but I'd suggest people play it with headphones with the dynamic audio on, because as soon as you press play, it's really it's really creepy. I played with the lights off at 1 a.m, so it was the perfect time to play. But you start off in a cell, and literally you can hear wind kind of behind you a little bit, and you can hear the shackles moving to your left. The way they do 3D audio in that demo is really cool, so I can't wait to see how they use it in the main game. But yeah, I really liked it. I enjoyed that it was, not a typical combat experience. I will say the performance, it is 60 FPS. There is one section where it dips a bit when you go in the main room and you see all the lighting, because I know the demo they've said ray tracing's on as well.
That's right.
So the fact that it even runs at 4K 60, I imagine it's upscaled, but 4K 60 with ray tracing is crazy. But it does dip a little bit when you're in there, so hopefully they'll they'll be able to give you the option to get a solid 60 mode, which I imagine they'll do, because the game in that demo ran pretty smooth. But yeah, you get a little taste for like the enemies and stuff. One of them kind of attacks you, and you get like a view of the really tall one, who seems to have some really weird fingernail claws, like Edward Scissorhands style, and I'm not about that. Like, as soon as she did that at the end of the demo, I was like, no, I'm out. I'm not fighting this thing.
Dude, the way she walked in the room, she was like crawling inside. Like, you see the videos, right? And everyone called her tall woman. I'm like, yeah, she's tall. But like, you play the demo, and like when she's right in front of you, and she's like crawling through the door,
height,
it's like crazy. Like, you're like looking up at her. It's like, holy shit.
But yeah, I really like the ideas they're going for. The character designs look really cool. I like the whole vampire witch kind of theme and werewolves. I don't really know like what Resident Evil is anymore. Like, it was zombies and stuff, and now it was like some weird virus that turns families into weird stuff. I don't know, and then witches and things. So I don't really know what's up with Resident Evil anymore. But it's cool either way. Like, I'm really excited to play it now.
I installed 7 right after that demo, so I'm fully planning on maybe.
I'm gonna replay 7 at some point because I really liked 7. So
sweet. I guess we'll both talk about Hitman 3 because we're both picked it up. I played less of it, so I'll probably get your impressions first. And yeah.
Okay. So yeah, according to Epic, I've played about 9 hours of the game so far. I've beaten the first 3 missions, so the first 3 locations. So you've got the Dubai level, which they showed quite a bit in the trailers, the England-based place, which is very like Agatha Christie novel, like Knives Out type thing, which is amazing. And then the 3rd level, which is like a nightclub in Germany, which is also a really cool one. It's basically just more Hitman. Like, if you've played Hitman 2016 or Hitman 2, it's just more of that. There isn't a ton of gameplay changes. It's more just refining what they already had and just making really cool levels. I will say there was a lot of problems with the game on launch day, especially on PC, because the
website as well.
Save transfer was completely broken. Yeah, so the website they were meant to launch before the game came out, they didn't launch until after the game came out. So you had thousands of people trying to transfer their saves from Steam to Epic, and it was just an absolute mess. The website kept crashing. I didn't get to play the game until like 9-10 o'clock at night, because that was when I transferred my save. And then I even saw some people on Reddit were saying they transferred their save, but the website says they have, but it's not appearing in game, and it basically meant they couldn't play, because if you then went on Hitman 2, you wouldn't have a save. So they'd completely lost, hundreds of hours of Hitman 2 progress in the span of 5 minutes, which is crazy that they let it get to that point, and they should have launched it before the game came out. But anyway, once I got in, like, it's really good. I do want to play more of the first couple levels. I have replayed the first 2 a couple times. Third one I haven't played since my first playthrough. But they do a really good job of showing off different environments and scenarios. I think as well, it's like, if you haven't been sold on IO doing a James Bond game, like the first level in this literally should just go, hey, we're doing James Bond, because it might as well be a James Bond mission. Like, it literally starts with like a parachuting scene, and then he walks through a curtain and he's suddenly got like a full suit on and stuff. Like, it's literally James Bond. Like, I loved it so much. So I can't wait to see what they do with that, because they're literally like the perfect developer for it. And it's just like the scenarios you can come up with are just silly and ridiculous. And I think that's what's the best thing. Is the story's pretty good as well, which is very surprising, because most people who play Hitman, including myself, do not care about the story. But they do a pretty good job of actually making the characters interesting, and making you want to know what's going on. I don't know how much you've played of like the second mission, Brandon, but I will say like that it's probably, at the 3 I've played, my favorite one so far. Like, it's the most unique out of the 3, because you can just do your typical Hitman thing and go off and kill the target. But then there's like an entire side story where you can solve a murder mystery that has happened in this house, and it's literally Knives Out, and it's really good. They do a really good job of tackling that kind of thing and using the house with secret rooms, and you can use that to assassinate people and things. Like, it's very well done. So I'm excited to play the other 3 levels because they're all so unique in this one. I do know the last level is meant to be extremely short because it is more linear. But I'm still very excited to play the rest of the game.
Yeah, so I'm in the middle of the second level. I'm trying to solve the murder mystery. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really unique and just like totally unlike Hitman. Like, I don't know who got this idea, but like it's such a good choice. It's like, yeah, the diversity is like insane. Like the first missions are like James Bond. I will say I am enjoying the first level. Well, it's like, obviously I've never played Hitman, right? So this is my first Hitman experience. The first level is insane with like the amount of options you could do. I'm not sure if that's been expanded upon since the first 2, but it felt like, I don't know, from what I've known of Hitman, I never knew it was that big and open in terms of what you can do. At least I didn't. I think the first level is like bigger than traditional Hitman levels, right? It's like,
I actually think it's a little bit smaller than some of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, and I have a lot to go through. But yeah, the first level is really cool. I'm in the middle of the second one, which I'm trying to solve the murder. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I just like the freedom of everything in terms of what you can choose to do, how you take out the targets. Completely unique. And even like looking at the settings, like later on when you unlock certain mastery levels, you could start off levels in different kind of situations with different items and stuff. Like, there's a lot of gameplay here, and especially coming from someone that never played Hitman 1 and 2, I'm probably going to pick up the pass for those and just have it all in Hitman 3. I'm just going to have like so much stuff to play. Yeah, just slowly, inching through it right now. I'm mainly going for the Hitman 3 campaign. Probably will start it up a bit later today and try to finish that second level. Yeah, I'm just really liking it. In terms of just the game as a whole, it's been awesome. Yeah, the first level does really kind of feel like James Bond. It kind of tells you, like, essentially, it's kind of like a pitch that they can easily tackle James Bond. I'm looking forward to seeing that project as well. Yeah, it's just, I've always wanted to play Hitman, but I just never came around to it. So Hitman 3 came out this week, and I knew that, you can get 1 and 2 all on 3, and it was the finale of the trilogy. So I was like, there's no way that I would pass on this. There's no better way to jump into Hitman. So just looking forward to playing more. Gameplay's awesome, and yeah, it's just really fun. It's like nice to have a game where it's like mainly about the gameplay, and you get to be in control of everything you do and have multiple options. And yeah, so been loving it. Anyways, I guess that has been it for this week's episode. Yeah, quite a bit of stuff to talk about. Next week, hopefully, we'll have some cool news as well as we get into February with releases like Destruction All-Stars and everything like that. Yeah, once again, we've been joined by Dan, Justin, and Charlie. Yeah, thanks for joining us this week, Dan, once again. It's been nice to talk to you and get those old, gaming at its core vibes back on the podcast.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been awesome. So next week, yeah, we'll see you again for episode 11. Make sure to submit your questions in the comment section down below or join our Discord. And yeah, with that being said, we'll see you next week. Take care.
See you later.